it's now come to that time where most people tend to want to start on their New Year's resolutions. So they've been thinking about it for the last week or so, and it's around this time typically where you're feeling a little bit fat, a little bit lazy, a little bit unhealthy from the week that has been between Christmas and New Year, and you start to make decisions to move forward. So in this video, what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about the best way to move forward. See, there's a couple of things that work against you around this time. First of all, the decision-making process about where you are right now. It tends to encourage drastic action, an action that is unsustainable, and it's a bit hard not to be cynical working in this industry for as long as I have, to see the cycles that happen year in, year out, where everyone's motivated and excited for the possibilities of the new year, and then come January, especially in Australia where we have the odd ecosystem of our festive season where we've got Christmas, New Year, and then about a month before we get to Australia Day, you kind of wipe out all of those good intentions within that month, being Aussie. So I wanted to talk about how to best approach the changes that you want to make so that you move forward and you consistently move forward, because at the end of the day, and I posted this as a little bit tongue-in-cheek the other day with Megan and having no goals, and how impeccably in great shape she is. I posted that a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but I wanted to post that because it gives a bit of an idea of what can happen when you do use this approach, when you don't go on those all-or-none cycles that often happen every single year, year in, year out. So let's get to the juicy part. Here's how you do it. The first thing you need to do is you need to get clear on exactly what you're currently doing and what has resulted in your current body shape. This is where a lot of people, they just completely skip it over, right? They'll know that they do all the wrong shit, so they don't want to focus on them doing the wrong shit, so they basically go straight to wanting to do everything perfect. And inside of this, you have a problem where you are fearful of not being enough, right? So you go out and you have this negative chatter in your head. You try the new plan, you try the new diet, you overhaul everything, and then proof that you aren't able to fulfill that starts to appear, right? You have this idea that, okay, I'm not fit and strong and healthy. I'm not meant to be because I'm a mum, because I work, because of X, Y, and Z. So then you start searching for all these situations where you can't apply the plan or the program or the diet that you've chosen to do, and therefore you start to self-sabotage, right? So the first thing you need to do is you need to get clear on what you're currently doing, and you need to work out, well, what's the worst thing that I currently do? What's the one thing that I can do that's going to change and have the biggest effect? When you think of it like this, then you start to create a little bit of efficiency in your actions. So you're not just adding stress and overwhelm on top. Now, the very one thing that you can do to move forward could be as simple as setting the screen time on your phone. If you don't have a structured bedtime that you get to when everything's normal, for 85% of the year, if you don't have a structured bedtime and a routine that you follow, there's no point even looking at your diet and your exercise, okay? Because if you don't have that bare basic structure and discipline, then nothing else you add is going to make a significant difference, right? So understanding where to start is super important, because if you're unstructured and you don't have a routine around getting the kids off to bed, getting dinner cooked, all that kind of stuff, that stress, chaos, mayhem at that period of time, the night before, getting up the next day, then all the good intentions of the next day, they're not going to be easy to action, and therefore you will have days where you're feeling great, you're on top of the world, and you have days where you don't, and you don't actually have that control. So knowing where to start, knowing where you are, what you need to change, and moving forward. And I call this like a bit of a designer diet, really, because if you do take this approach, then what you can start to do is you can create a way of eating for yourself that you actually love, and therefore you're going to be more likely to stick to over a longer period of time. And it's gotten a point to Megan and I for our family where we can be like, well, you know what, we're relaxed right now, we don't have any goals, so we're willing to be a little bit fatter than we usually are to enjoy ourselves, right? But then we get to a point where we're like, okay, well that standard is now not in line with our values, right? Where, for example, right now we're walking a lot around Brisbane and we're in a little bubble in Dubbo where we don't walk a lot. So now I'm in Brisbane, my foot's sore from walking, I'm cranky and tired, and I'm not holiday fit, and I don't like that, right? So that's the standard that's been broken, so then now it's time to reel it in, okay? And you have to have these standards in place. One concept I'm going to leave you with is popping the bubble, right? Popping the bubble is basically understanding that you live in a little bubble of comfortability. The people who you surround yourself are involved in that bubble of comfortability. It's not until you pop that bubble where you start to take action. When you do take that action, you need to think of it as though you're popping bubbles as well, because when you approach it in this way, you start to see the things that you need to do as little bubbles, right? And for example, if your bubble is too big, then you're going to overwhelm yourself. Following a completely new way or lifestyle of living is a much bigger bubble than something as simple as eating a nutritious, delicious dessert before bed every single night, right? So it's all about those tiny little steps that you can take now that will ultimately get you to where you want to be this time next year. Don't think of it as a 6-week thing, an 8-week thing. Start thinking about it as a 6-year thing, an 8-year thing. And when you start to think of it as something you're going to do for the rest of your life, then you have a compass and you have a way of deciding on whether or not that particular habit or action is in line with what you can do for the rest of your life, right? If you can't sit there and say, yep, this way of lifestyle that I'm choosing to choose in January is something that I can keep up in July, then whatever result or positive benefit you get in January will completely go by the time you get to July. And then what's the point? I mean, that's just completely wasted effort. Why do that, right? You're better off just staying where you currently are if it means doing something that's unsustainable, getting a result, and then watching that result go straight out the window. Because that's just more proof that you're not worthy enough. What you need to start doing is prove to yourself that you are worthy of the result that you actually want, and that starts by making those small bubbles, popping those small bubbles and feeling good about the actions that you're taking. Forget positive affirmations, forget just loving yourself the way you are, forget all of that stuff, because the fact of the matter is as humans, unless you're growing, unless you're moving, unless you're traveling forward, you're traveling backwards, and traveling backwards puts you in that heavy negative mindset. So think about what's one small thing that I can do so that I'm better than I was yesterday. If you've got that mindset, if you've got the 1% better every single day mindset, then you're going to crush 2021. Comments, thoughts, revelations, pop them in the comment section below. If you have New Year's resolutions and you want them broken down for you, pop it in the comment section below. I'm happy to create a discussion around this, and hopefully this video has helped you get clear on what you should be looking for right now to start feeling fit, strong and healthy, and ultimately achieve the best body that you've ever had in 2021.